You thought she loved you. You thought the laughter meant something, that the way she touched your arm or lingered on your words was a sign of permanence. You believed her eyes when they locked onto yours like you were the only man in a crowded world. You believed the soft warmth of her hand, the whispered promises, the confessions in the night that you were the one. And for a brief moment it felt eternal. You tasted the illusion of forever. But forever never came. One day, without warning, the warmth turned cold, the gaze turned distant, and the laughter that once wrapped you in belonging became silence sharp enough to cut. She blocked you, ghosted you, replaced you. Overnight, you went from her only man to no man at all, discarded like a dream that evaporates with the morning light. And now you sit, staring into the void, asking the question every broken man whispers to himself when the illusion collapses. What the hell just happened? Here's the truth. No one ever told you. She never loved you. She loved how you made her feel. She loved the dopamine you delivered, the validation you poured into her veins like a drug. She loved the fantasy she crafted in her head, the mask she wore for you, the temporary high of your devotion. But the mask slipped. The fantasy died. The moment her needs shifted, so did her presence. She didn't betray you. She simply returned to herself, and that self had nothing to do with you. What remains now is not betrayal, but clarity. Silence as truth. But it wasn't always like this. There was once a time, decades ago, when love meant loyalty, when two souls could bind themselves in shared struggle, when devotion was deeper than distraction. Love was once endurance, not entertainment. Back then, affection survived storms, vows meant something, and men and women leaned into each other not because it was convenient, but because survival itself demanded it. Now, love has mutated into a commodity, a temporary drug in a marketplace flooded with options. Dating has become a game, and women, modern women, are addicts of dopamine, chasing validation over virtue, pleasure over purpose. You're not losing to better men. That's the lie you whisper to yourself in the late hours, wondering if someone stronger, wealthier, or more attractive took her from you. No, you're losing to something much larger, much more insidious. You're losing to the algorithm, to 1,000 likes lighting up her phone, to filtered faces sliding into her inbox, to curated feeds that inflate her value in a way reality never could. The woman you're trying to love has already sold herself to the machine. You feel it every time she picks up her phone mid-conversation, every time her eyes wander past you looking for someone more exciting, every time she withholds affection like a weapon, denying you warmth until you bend to her will. She doesn't want love, she wants leverage. She doesn't want connection, she wants control. And the tragedy is that you believed sweetness was sincerity. You mistook charm for soul, and when you gave her everything, your time, your loyalty, your devotion, that was your first mistake. Modern men are playing an ancient game with new rules. You think love is about giving, but she is playing chess. You write poetry, she writes strategies. You dream of futures, she calculates options. While you imagine a life built together, she keeps her eyes on the background, always scanning for the next possibility, the next upgrade, the next high. And you suffer not because she is cruel, but because you are asleep. You've been projecting the divine onto the disposable, worshipping an illusion that cannot hold the weight of your devotion. And this is why you suffer. You loved a mask. You loved your own idea of her. You fell to your knees before a shadow dressed as a goddess. Beneath the smile, beneath the softness, beneath the carefully curated self she showed you, there was nothing. Just ego, just chaos, just shadow. Philosophers warned you centuries ago. Schopenhauer wrote it in ink, Jung traced it in the unconscious, Freud dissected it in therapy rooms filled with broken men. And now, it is your turn to see what they saw. The feminine is not what you think it is. She was never yours, and she was never meant to be. Schopenhauer didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't wrap it in poetry or dress it up in romance. He saw the feminine as it truly is, nature's survival mechanism. Woman is the sex that selects. Man is the sex that must be selected. That is the brutal equation written into biology itself. Translation: she was never yours. She was never meant to be yours. She doesn't choose you because of soul, spirit, or destiny. She chooses you, temporarily. Because in that moment you serve a purpose. You elevate her status, you provide her security, you amplify her image. And when that purpose dies, so does her interest. It's not evil. It's instinct. It's not betrayal. It's biology. This is why she can say, "I love you" on Monday and block you by Friday. It's not because she's demonic. It's because her love is conditional. You were useful, interesting, exciting, until you weren't. Her instincts serve only one master: survival. And survival does not care about your dreams, your poetry, or your eternal longing. Survival only cares about what works now, what elevates her now, what advantage she perceives in the present. Modern men confuse temporary approval with eternal loyalty. Schopenhauer never made that mistake. He wrote that woman is not a moral creature in the philosophical sense, but a practical one. She doesn't make decisions based on eternal truths, but on immediate utility. What feels safe, what feels powerful, what feels rewarding in this exact moment. So when she withdraws, when she ghosts, when she pivots to another man without a second thought, it's not malice, it's the design. The feminine was not built for permanence. It was built for continuation of the species. And biology does not bend for your heart. It does not bend for your need. It bends only for its own imperative. But here's the paradox most men never see. She doesn't even understand this about herself. She isn't consciously calculating the evolutionary algorithm. She feels it. She moves with it. She becomes it. And because you are blind to the script written inside her, you mistake instinct for intimacy. You believe her when she performs devotion. You fall for the play because you want to believe in the myth of forever. And when the performance ends, you collapse, not because she left, but because the illusion shattered. Schopenhauer was savage about it. He said women are by nature inferior to men in all things of intellect and spirit. That line alone could get a man cancelled today, exiled from polite society, mocked, ridiculed, or erased from every platform. But here's the part no one hears. He didn't say it as an insult. He said it to free men, to liberate them from the expectation that women could mirror male depth, male sacrifice, male vision. They cannot. They never could. They were not designed for that. Women are not men with curves. They are not partners in the spiritual sense. They are adapters, responders, manipulators of perception for survival. They flow where advantage flows. And the modern world has weaponized that instinct. Instagram, TikTok, OnlyFans. These are not harmless platforms. They are dopamine slot machines, feeding the feminine ego a constant stream of validation for nothing more than existing. She posts a picture. She receives hundreds of likes. She doesn't need to nurture family. She doesn't need to cultivate virtue. She doesn't even need to love. All she needs is to appear lovable. That is enough to keep the attention economy flooding her with male energy, male desire, male resources. She has been optimized not for loyalty, not for intimacy, not for soul, but for hypergamy and novelty. And so you think she's yours. But she belongs to the algorithm. You think you're building something real. She's running a simulation in her head. Could I do better? Could I get more? Could I trade up? This is not love. This is evolutionary economics in a dress. ancient instincts dressed up in makeup, filters, and curated feeds. Schopenhauer's final unfiltered truth was simple. To marry means to do everything possible to make oneself disliked. Why? Because the longer she knows you, the more the illusion fades, the more the mask drops, the more your utility stabilizes, and the more she grows restless. The moment she no longer sees advantage, she turns cold. Always. And then you realize the truth. You didn't fall in love with a woman. You fell in love with your blindness. You weren't betrayed. You were woken up. You mistook the performance for the person. You mistook instinct for intimacy. You mistook a biological strategy for a spiritual connection. And it devastates you because you thought you found a soulmate. But what you found was a survival machine wearing the mask of romance. Freud took this further. He wasn't content to stop at instinct. He wanted to unearth the roots of why men are so vulnerable to this illusion in the first place. He dug deeper than anyone before him, down into the unconscious, beneath morality, beneath love itself, into the primal wounds of the male soul. And what he found was devastating. Most men are not chasing women. They are chasing completion. They are chasing the embrace of the mother they never fully received, the approval that was withheld, the warmth that was absent, the tenderness that was replaced with silence or control. So what happens? You grow up. You enter the world as a man, but inside you carry the unfinished boy. And that boy is starving. That boy is still waiting for the love he never got. And so when you meet a woman, you project that hunger onto her. You call it love. But it's not love. It's compulsion. It's repetition. It's trauma dressed up in perfume and lipstick. It's the unconscious demanding resolution of an old wound through the body of a stranger. That's why you think she completes you. That's why you collapse when she leaves. It's not just her walking away. It's the wound reopening. The boy inside you screaming because once again the warmth he longed for has been denied. You don't see her as she is. You see your past reflected in her eyes. And when she turns cold, it isn't just rejection. It's abandonment all over again. Freud's genius was brutal in its simplicity. You are not who you think you are. You say you're in love. You say she's the one. But your unconscious laughs at you. It knows you're not chasing her. You're chasing your own shadow. You're chasing your mother. And that's why heartbreak destroys men. That's why rejection feels like death. It's not about her. It's about the boy inside you reliving the wound he never healed. And then Freud drops the cruelest truth of all. Once erotic desire enters a relationship, tenderness dies. Why? Because sex, love, and power cannot coexist peacefully in the unconscious. The more you desire her, the more she controls you. The more you reveal your need, the more she withdraws her respect. The more you open up, the more she grows cold. You think you're connecting. She feels you bleeding. And in that moment, your vulnerability does not inspire devotion. It inspires disgust. Because women do not want to mother you. They want to orbit your strength. And the moment you collapse into need, you fall out of orbit. She doesn't feel safe. She feels repelled, and so she leaves. But here's the question Freud forces you to face. What if she's not cruel? What if she's just honest? What if her rejection is not malice, but nature? What if women cannot give what men unconsciously demand because they never had it to begin with? What if the feminine was never designed to heal the masculine? This is the collision point of modern love. Men seeking salvation, women seeking advantage, both unconscious, both deceived. Men chase mothers in lovers. Women chase leverage in partners. And both end up disappointed because neither was truly looking at the other. Both were projecting shadows. And if you're listening right now, if this feels like it's tearing open your chest, good. That pain is clarity. That ache is your soul clawing at the bars of illusion. You didn't love her. You loved your anima, your inner feminine archetype, the goddess you forged inside your own psyche, the missing half of your soul projected outward. Jung warned us about this. The anima is not a woman. She is your shadow in silk. She enchants, intoxicates, obsesses. She makes you believe this one is different, this one completes you. But she is only a mirror. She is your unconscious reflecting itself through the face of a woman who was ever built to hold it. And so the pattern repeats. You fall for the mysterious, the wounded, the unavailable. You don't want intimacy. You want your own ghost to love you back. And she plays the role for a while, until she doesn't. Until the goddess turns to ash, until the mask slips, until you see her for what she truly is. Shallow, egoic, lost in herself. Not a goddess, not a queen, just another modern woman raised by screens and scarcity, chasing validation like oxygen, with a TikTok-level attention span and no access to her own soul. Jung called it the death of depth. The anima withers in a culture that worships ego, and modern women are starved of soul. Once upon a time, the feminine was a portal to mystery, intuition, stillness, the soft place where a man could encounter his unconscious and be transformed. But what happens when the feminine no longer has mystery? What happens when she is nothing more than a walking Instagram reel, a curated highlight of filtered images and performative captions? The answer is simple. The portal closes. The anima fades. Love dies. And you feel it. You feel it in your bones. You ache for depth, and you find only distraction. You reach for her soul, and you touch only surface. You offer her your mythic self, the part of you that longs for meaning, and she stares at you like you're speaking another language because you are. Depth requires stillness. Mystery requires silence. Presence requires a connection beyond dopamine. And she hasn't been still in years. The illusion was never hers. It was always yours. You didn't fall in love with her. You fell in love with your own myth, your anima wearing her face. And the moment you tried to hold her as real, she collapsed. Jung's demand is clear. Withdraw the projection. Kill the illusion. Integrate the anima within, not in her. Because if you keep chasing her in the world, you'll only meet masks, ghosts, and shells. Modern women cannot carry your soul. They do not want to. They want attention, validation, and power. But your soul longs for truth, and it is starving. Look closer and you'll see it everywhere. The more connected she is to the world, the less connected she is to herself. She used to read poetry, now she posts thirst traps. She used to dream of love, now she dreams of followers. She used to look for a man, now she looks for the highest bidder. This is not evil, it is emptiness. Ego masquerading as empowerment. A nervous system chasing the next hit of validation, drowning in likes but starving for meaning. And you foolishly try to fill that void with love. But you can't love a black hole. You can't nurture a woman who has no access to her own soul. So what happens? She absorbs you. She takes your time, your presence, your energy, until you are hollowed out, bitter, and resentful. And still it's never enough, because she is already hollow. She hates you for reminding her of that. Your depth confronts her emptiness. Your stillness exposes her chaos. Your strength reflects her disintegration. And so she lashes out, withdraws, or vanishes. Not because she has clarity, but because the mirror of your presence terrifies her. Here is the truth you must face. The modern feminine cannot be loved. Not because she is wicked, but because love requires presence, and presence requires soul. and she outsourced hers to the internet years ago. She confuses ego with empowerment. Ego says, "I don't need a man." Shadow whispers, "Why doesn't any man stay?" She blames men for not loving her, but she isn't lovable. She is marketable. She is consumable. And when men finally wake up, when they stop projecting anima onto her, she will face her deepest fear: obscurity, silence, no attention, no orbit, no audience. And silence is death to the ego-driven feminine. You cannot save her. You cannot reach her. You cannot fill her. She must descend into her own abyss, face her own shadow, and resurrect herself if she ever hopes to find depth again. But most won't. Most will chase validation until time itself punishes them, until they are older, bitter, and still wondering why nothing ever lasted. That is not your burden to carry. Do not chase the feminine void. Build your kingdom. Stand still. Watch who rises from the shadows, not the spotlight. That is the woman worth loving. The rest are echoes, and you cannot build a future with an echo. This is the truth. You must stop seeking the feminine to complete you. You must become whole so that she becomes optional. The mask has cracked. The anima has faded. The chase has collapsed into silence. And now you sit in the ruins, wondering what comes next. This is where most men break. They either become bitter cynics, screaming online about betrayal, or they crawl back to the feminine for one more hit of validation. But not you, because now you know. You were never meant to save her. You were meant to save yourself. Kill the dream of being chosen, of being completed, of being redeemed by her love. Kill the dream, or the dream will kill you. And once it dies, something else rises in its place. Not rage, not emptiness, but clarity. You were never looking for her. You were looking for yourself in her eyes. And now it's time to stop looking outward. It's time to go inward. This is not bitterness. This is discipline. This is power. Abstinence is not weakness. Detachment is not escape. It is sovereignty. It is the reclaiming of your life force from the feminine void. You don't walk away out of hate. You walk away out of reverence for your soul. You stop chasing her, and you start building him. The man who creates. The man who governs himself. The man who walks away when the soul is not met. You do not owe the world your vulnerability. You owe it your sovereignty. Build a life she cannot touch. You want revenge? Build something she'll never be part of. Write in silence. Lift in darkness. Earn without flaunting. Disappear without explaining. Create a life so complete, so ordered, so powerful that any woman who enters it must rise or vanish. Let her scream. Let her call you cold. Let her project her wounds onto your discipline. It doesn't matter, because you have become the one thing she cannot seduce, a man who no longer needs her. Stop worshipping love. Start worshipping order. The modern man is sick because he worships connection above structure, feeling above foundation. But love without order is chaos. Feminine without masculine is disaster. And the man who serves emotion above discipline becomes a slave to his own biology. You are not here to feel safe. You are here to become dangerous and disciplined. You are the prize, but only if you act like it. Not in the shallow, performative way of TikTok masculinity, but in the deep, immovable, stoic way where your presence is felt before you speak, where your boundaries are spiritual, not performative, where your life is a fortress, not a begging bowl. And if a woman wants entry, she brings peace or she gets silence. You didn't lose her. You lost the illusion of her. And that is liberation. The silence you feel now is not defeat but clarity. You weren't betrayed. You were awakened. And waking up hurts. The pain you feel isn't heartbreak. It's ego death. It's the boy inside you vanishing with the anima. It's your soul realizing it must walk alone toward something real. She was never your muse. She was your mirror. And now the mirror shatters, and you are left not broken, but free. Free to rise, not as a lover, but as a force. Because here is the final truth. The feminine cannot be saved, only seen. And once you see her clearly, the spell breaks. You don't have to hate her. You don't have to fight her. You simply stop believing in her. The myth collapses, the spell dissolves, and the man stands, sovereign, complete, untouchable. She may return. She may knock on the door of your fortress. She may whisper that you've changed, test you with her charm, bait you with her beauty. But do not answer, do not open. Let her remember what it feels like to lose a man who finally sees. Because once you see, you cannot unsee. And once you stop chasing, you cannot be controlled. This is the silence that crowns you. Not the silence of defeat, but the silence of sovereignty. You don't beg shadows for affection anymore. You don't project gods onto mortals anymore. You don't confuse ego for intimacy anymore. You see clearly, and that clarity is freedom. You were never hers. She was never yours. She was the mask, the mirror, the echo, and now she is gone, and in her absence a man is born,